Hello everybody, welcome to Dream GM. In this channel we are always analyzing the game like chess game as always, which are played by the legendary player like Mikhail, Gary Kasparov, Bobby Fischer, Magnus Carlsen, or like this. And today we are going to analyze the game between Boris Spasskys and Mikhail. Both are really very strong player of this generation, and while Boris Spasskys playing as a white and Mikhail playing as a black, and the tournament held in Talinum, URS in 1973. And we have opening is Nimzo Indian defense and Leningrad variation. And game start with d4, knight f6, c4 and e6. This is typically called Nimzo Indian defense. And knight c3, bishop b4 and bishop g5. Both are trying to pin the knight, and it's called Leningrad variation. And game start with h6, attacking the bishops, and bishops back to h4. These all are the standard line of Nimzo Indian defense. And game start with c5, attacking the pawn on d4 and trying to win the knight, and prepare for the queen a5, attacking the knight with the bishops and the queen. And he pushes the pawn, try to create and open up the center and try to develop the light square bishops as well. He attacked the pawn on c4 with b5, and these all are standard lineup of Nimzo Indian defense. And d takes e6, which are play, and f takes e6 and c takes d6. These moves are played. He trade the pawn here, and Mikhail develop a center and trying to attack the knight with the bishops and the queen here, and cover up the all four center. And this knight is pinned, by the way, so he can't come back further unless this queen is moved forward. And Boris Spasskys play e3, protecting the pawn on b5 and open up the file for bishops. And he is going to develop a knight and ready to castle, while Mikhail is already ready to castle here. Mikhail castle to the king side and make his king safer. There is like no weakness left in Mikhail position. Boris develop a knight toward the center and trying to develop a bishops and castle to the king side as well. And one thing, if you playing as a strong player like Mikhail, and typically Mikhail, if you castle to the other side rather than the Mikhail castle, he is going to cross with the pawn. If you castle with the same side, then you can play the in-game with Mikhail, otherwise he is going to cross you. And he's threatened to win the knight on c3 square. And we see the move queen to a5 here, try to win the knight, and threat to knight e4, double attack the knight with the 3 pieces here. He takes the knight because he don't want to knight come back here and attacking these pieces with 3 powerful pieces here. He can't defend this, so he takes with the rooks and queen d2, protecting the knight with the pawn and the queen. So now he can push the bishops, because bishops doesn't have any square left. He has either take or lose the bishops. He played a6, attacking the pawn on b5, and if he takes, he can bring the rook, or he can bring the bishops in the game. And he takes with the pawn. Now he can take with the bishops, and they can trade the bishops, and he can castle, but he doesn't take. Instead of this, he bring his knight to the center, attacking the knight, trying to attack the knight. If he takes with the pawn, he will take, and if after he takes, he can't take the queen, because this square is protected by the knight, and he can trade this knight which protect this square as well. And Boris Spasskys is ready to castle here, and we see the move d4 by Mikhail, attacking the knight, which is protected by the pawn and the knight, and he has also protected by pawn and knight and the queen. So he takes on d4, and this is a brilliant move by Mikhail. He removed the defense of d4 pawn with taking the knight and sacrificing the rook, and more than that, he doesn't give the time to castle for his opponent. And he takes with the bishops, attacking the pawn, attacking the knight, and attacking the rook at the same time. And he can take with this and win the knight on c3 square. And he takes with, if queen can't take because of knight can take. If he takes the knight first, he can take your knight with attacking the queen and the pawn on b2 square. And this all are pinned to the king. This is really very dangerous for Boris, so he decided to save for his king and castle to the king side. So Mikhail can't push his pawn to break through the pawn structure. He takes with the pawn, attacking the queen and attacking the pawn, and he's attacking the knight on c6 square. He takes with the pawn, and he takes with the bishops, attacking the queen and the rook at the same time. If you take my knight, then Mikhail knight, then he can take his queen or rook, or he can also take the rook at last. So he decided to go to queen d6, attacking the knight with 2 pieces. If he takes the rook, then he can take with the bishops and attack the rook, and also can take the pawn on bishops on a1 square. He takes with the bishops. Now if he takes, he can just simply take the rook. After rook takes, he can double up power there to win the bishops. He takes with the bishops. This bishops is pinned. Now he can't move because rook can take the queen here, but and he can also take the queen, and Boris don't have any check because everything is protected here. He attacks the queen. Instead of taking the free rooks, he attacks the queen and threatens to take the bishops on c6 square. He moved the queen to b8, attacking the bishops and attacking these bishops, but he can simply take the bishops and protect, because this bishop is protected by the queen. He did this because there is no checks here, so queen has to come back, otherwise he will stuck in the corner like this forever. He threat to take the rook, because if rook takes and this bishop is pinned here, he can't move, so he lose the bishops. And Mikhail has now bishop's pair advantage, he might lose. He blocked with the bishops. Now rook can't take because of queen takes. Is a problem for Boris Spasskys. And rook to c2, try to double up the rook on c file and cross the Mikhail with both rook and the queen. He attacks the rook. He offered a trade. Boris offered a trade, but if he trade the queens, he can simply double up with both rook and win the rook and bishops, and Boris is actually winning the game. So he refused to trade the queen and trying to make some counter play or mating attack with those bishops pair advantage. Both have positionally equal, because Boris Spasskys has 4 pawn and 2 rook and the queen, which is 23 point of material, and Mikhail has also queen, rook, 2 bishops and 3 pawn, which is also 23 point of material, which is equal. It's terms of equalization. He can threaten to mate here or win the rookie on c2 square. He offer a queen trade again, because if Boris managed to trade the queen, then he can double up the rook and simply win the bishops for the rook and win the game as well. But Mikhail refused and go to queen f5, attacking the rook and try to create counter play here. And Boris simply double up the rook and threat to take the rook. He can't take with the rook, because after rook takes, queen takes, and Boris is losing the rook, so he didn't take and offer the trade, because as always if he takes with the queen, he can take and double up rook, can win the bishops and win the game. So this is like a trouble for Mikhail, so he didn't trade. Instead of this, he play queen to g5, pinning the pawn with this angle and this angle, and trying to move the rooks and attack with the bishops, and trying to checkmate Boris Spasskys. He attacks the bishops and pin the pawn to the king. Now he can move the rook and attack the pawn on g2 square, but he can takes, and after he takes, he just can hide or can block with the bishops, so there is no problem. g3, played by Boris Spasskys. He is making some escape square for king, but this entire light square is covered by the bishops on b7 square. And now Mikhail sacrificed the bishops. First he sacrificed the rook for the knight, and now he sacrificed the bishops for a pawn, because of now his king doesn't have square actually, so he has to take or move to f2. If he goes to f2, there is also check, so he has to take. He takes the bishops, queen f6 check, and this light square is covered. And as always, he threatened to take on rook on c2, queen e1, and queen e5 check, because now he can't block with the rook because of rook takes c1, and he can't block with the queen because he can simply take the queen, so he has to move and go to f1 square, and bishops a6 check, and this square is covered by the queen, and as always he can't block with rook because of rook takes c1, it's always a threat. King g1, now he can give a check from here, and he finds it. Queen d4 check. If he go here, there is a mate, and he has to sacrifice the queen, and Mikhail is simply winning the game. So instead of this, he is going to g2 because he wants to escape in s3 or f1 square, and queen e4 check. If he go there, he can come up with this mate, so he decided to go to g1, and bishops to b8, try to create a mating attack in g2 square, and threat to check on h1 square. After he can't take the rook, Boris can't take the rook because of queen g2 mate protected by these light square bishops, so he make the space for his king, but queen h1 check is coming, so he gives a check, king f2, and rook f7 check. He can't come on this diagonal because these are covered by the bishops and the knight, and rook covered the f file, so he has only, and he can't go this file also. He has only 2 square to go. King e2, and as always he can't block with the queen, because of this check. Bishops a6 check, so he goes, and now Boris Spasskys resigned the game because Mikhail is simply +7. I will show you the strongest computer move here, how Mikhail can win the game. So Boris Spasskys resigned the game. These all are actually very strong or deep engine moves. So I will show you here.